Ghosts of War, Basic Training Part 3. Only after we have been completely destroyed can we begin to find ourselves. The drill sergeants do it like this. They break us down, build us up, break us down again, and then build us back up. The first breakdown is the hardest part. It's the first 3 weeks, and they call it red phase. The second 3 weeks is called white phase, and this is when they build us up. The third week's that's blue phase. It's nearing the end, but we're always one more trick up their sleeve, one more breakdown before we can be built into soldiers. During the second to the last week of blue phase, there's an FTX, the first field training exercise we'll ever conduct in the military. The whole company camps out in the Missouri woods. It's December, and we pull security shifts at all hours of the night. There's a select group of privates called OPFOR, Opposing Force, who try to enter our perimeter, so we have to be aware. The whole time we wear laser gear, a bunch of sensors attached to our chests, shoulders, and helmet. If they get hit by any opponent's laser, they chirp loudly until a drill sergeant finds us and sticks a yellow key into the box on our chest. There's another box on the end of our weapon. This is how we shoot a laser. The way it works is off of a blank round, simply gunpowder without a bullet, and the way M16's works is with direct impingement. This means that there's a tube in the barrel to collect the high-pressure gas expelled from the denotated round. The gas is then used to push the hammer back down, thus charging the weapons. What you get from direct impingement is semi-automatic gunfire. The box sitting on the muzzle of our M16s needs some of that expelled gas in order to fire. When the trigger is pulled, the box shoots a laser wherever the rifle is aimed, and since it can only work when a blank round actually goes off, this Army laser gear is about as real as it gets. Within the platoon, we pair off in battle buddy teams. Each battle buddy watches the other's back. Each battle buddy team sleeps in two-person tents, called pup tents, and our pup tents line the edge of the section of perimeter for which 4th Platoon is responsible. The only other tents on the FTX are a warming tent and a chow tent. Upon arrival at the site, we dig haste fighting positions using our E-tools. A haste is a little burrow in the ground, just a spot to lie down and be concealed from the enemy. Then we plant sticks in the ground to mark our sectors of fire. At the forefront of my haste, facing outside the perimeter, there's one stick on the left and one on the right. Picture a 7-10 split in bowling. Picture a rifle between the two pins. The pins or sticks keep me from firing too far left or right. This way, we don't shoot into each other's sectors and possibly each other's positions. My battle buddy and I were smart. We find leaves and fill our haste with them. Then we lay our ponchos on top of the leaves. See, air is an insulator, and a pile of leaves has a lot of air in it. During the FTX, we'll have to lie for hours in our haste, so a pile of leaves protects us from the frozen December ground. After all, that's how we do it in war. Also, like in a real combat zone, we don't just sleep in tents and pull security shifts. A large part of the FTX is running missions. B teams bounce forward, I yell, and the B team leader for this mission. Our 5-man group jumps up from their prone positions and hauls ass for 5 seconds. I'm up, you see me, I'm down. 15 minutes from where we started. We all drop to our knees, to our hands, to our stomachs, all of this at the same time. Dressed, and no less than 10 meters apart. 10 meters is the proper distancing between soldiers. In my head, the drill sergeant corrects me. There are no soldiers here, only lousy privates. 10 meters because that's the effective range of a grenade. If we're too close together when a grenade falls, the private next to me gets wasted too. So we're 10 meters apart from each other, and a sniper is taking shots from the other side of the valley. He's already taken out one guy from an A team who fight from the other side of the shallow ravine. They're closer to the sniper than we are, but I see him, that sniper, that single OPFOR guy, crouching, taking shots at us. He's just another private from basic training, but right now, he's the enemy. There's a log lying a little ways ahead of me. I can get into it. I can use it for protection. I crawl on my stomach just like we did across the pit, my belly dragging on the ground, my muzzle out of the dirt and leaves. I get behind the log, safe. The other 4 members of my team are lying on their stomachs, ready for the chance to take this guy out. I see him pointing his weapon at them. I make my move. I crouch behind the log and take a kneeling position. He sees me. I point my weapon at him. He points his at me. Brass. It stands for Breathe, Relax, Aim, Sight, Picture, Squeeze, and it's the only Army acronym that makes sense right now. Breathe. Breathe methodically, time and the breaths. Figure them out. This is harder than it sounds. Ever consciously think about blinking. Drives you crazy trying to control it. You can hardly tell when it needs to be done. Too much, too little, too automatic. There's a natural pause at the end of an exhale. That's when you shoot. Relax. Muscle fatigue quickly in one position. Rest the back of the elbow on the knee. A pointy elbow can balance on the point of the knee without wiggling around. And more important, pull the weapon into the shoulder. Don't try to hold it in the air. Pulling the weapon snug is easier than trying to fight gravity. Fight gravity and you'll lose every time. Aim. Aim low. Keep the sides of the front sight post flush with its body. Bullets arch like baseballs. The round will climb for the first 100 or so meters. Put the front sight post where the target meets the dirt. Even if the bullet skims the ground in front of him, it'll bounce upward. Sight picture. Put the front sight post in the middle of the rear appenditure. The black circular opening of the rear appenditure is fuzzy because the focus is on the target. Then it's on the front sight post. When they're lined up, move the back of the weapon so the front sight post sits in the center of the fuzzy hole. Smack dab in the center. Squeeze. Don't pull the trigger. If the penny falls, it's 10 push-ups. Squeeze. Control the trigger and feel the hammer fall. The hammer should surprise you every time. Shouldn't know it's coming. Neither should the bad guy. Bang! The hammer should surprise me. It does, but not my hammer. His hammer. The bad guy. OPFOR has a better shot, a faster shot than me. I am hit, and B team has no leader. There's a loud chirping noise to remind me. Fall down, says the drill sergeant, sticking a yellow key to my chest. You're dead. My laser gear stops chirping, and I lie in the leaves. I shouldn't have kneeled. I was fine behind the log. I was safe. I should have stayed in the prone and aimed over the log. I exposed too much by kneeling. The drill sergeant looks at me, pulls out a CS gas grenade, tear gas, and winks as he pulls the pin. Your team is screwed, Private, he tells me. He throws the canister next to the private who's taken over my command. The private rolls to his right, yells, gas, gas, gas to his teammates, and undoes the protective mask carrier on his hip. He tries without shaky hands to get to the mask on before the gas hits him, his coughing as he puts it on. You're dead, the drill sergeant tells him. I put my mask on, then I sigh. I watch the losing battle continue like a spirit would after leaving its body. Another one of us gets shot, and another. Laser gear chirping all over the place. It fills the once quiet woods. You're all dead, says the drill sergeant. It cuts the exercise short. Frickin' embarrassment. He keys the rest of the dead privates, and the chirping stops. The Missouri woods go quiet again, and he rallies us together for an AAR after-action review. We sit in a semicircle facing him. These Missouri leaves we sit in, they're not orange and yellow like New York leaves, so they're ugly and brown. The trees look down on us. Our whole squad was taken out by one guy and a mustard gas mortar round. The drill sergeant kicks the CS canister towards the edge of the woods, and the OPFOR member who is shooting at us runs the other way, getting ready for another bunch of privates to come strolling through, getting ready to show them just how underprepared for war they are. The drill sergeant asks us what went wrong. We sit in silence because we have no idea. The execution of war looks so easy in the movies. The reality of war, though, is much more complicated. If this were real, I'd be dead, I think. I wasn't even taken out by a soldier. It was one of the privates in my basic training company, some G.I. Joe schmo who's not even a G.I. yet. The gas expelled from his blank round set a laser shooting from the OD green box on the end of his rifle. The blank ejected into the Missouri leaves, and the laser raced across the small valley toward me, the target. The laser landed in one of the receptors on my chest, helmet, or shoulders, and he killed me before I had a chance to shoot. We're playing laser tag with blank rounds and cool army gear. If someone had told me this when I was 6, I would have looked at them and marveled, wondering how I could possibly be so cool. I would have seen my future self as a hero. I would have thought of myself as one of those valiant stone-jawed warriors in World War II and Vietnam flicks, maybe Matt Damon or Mel Gibson, maybe William Dafoe or Charlie Sheen. What went wrong? The drill sergeant asked me. I got shot, drill sergeant, I say. No shit, Einstein, he says. But why? I kneeled. That wasn't the problem, he says. You shouldn't have bounced forward. It was only one guy. You should have bounced back, Private, he says. You didn't know If there are 50 guys lined up around the next curve, your soldiers' lives are more important than the mission. I forgot about the original mission. We weren't supposed to be looking for and killing OPFOR. We were supposed to locate a nearby road. We were supposed to be doing reconnaissance so the army could move tanks, but finding the road was not important enough to die for. I got caught up in winning. The bad guy always lose. I got caught up in destroying him. Gooks in Vietnam flicks. And being a soldier, no soldiers here, only lousy privates. I shouldn't have bounced forward. Didn't I see that in a movie once? I got caught in the Avenging 9/11. That's why I'm here and being a hero, says the drill sergeant. You were trying to be a hero. Yes, drill sergeant, I say. Think of the FTX as a breakdown, the final test before we can become soldiers. In Red Phase, we're screamed at, told we're worthless. We learn hand-to-hand combat and marching basics. We learn how to eat a full meal in 3 minutes and how to ignore the stresses of having no self-expression. The lesson really is freedom. In White Phase, we learn how to shoot an M16 and how to work as a team. We learn how to work under pressure and strive towards a goal. We learn to believe in ourselves and our abilities. The lesson really is faith. In Blue Phase, we learn that no one is ever prepared for war. We learn that no matter how many drills you run or how many push-ups you do, you're never good enough. There's always someone better. There's always another trick up a sleeve. The lesson really is humility. And then we graduate. We walk tall across the stage, but not too tall. Our families come down to watch us, to say they're proud us in our Class A uniforms. Amazed at the 9-week journey we've taken, proud of our accomplishments, but not too proud. The best part is not when our families congratulate us or when we walk across the stage. The best part is after the ceremony when the drill sergeant shakes our hands. Congratulations, soldier, he says. I stay at Fort Leonard Wood for AIT, where for 9 more weeks I learn how to run heavy equipment and march. When I graduate, I finally return home to my family. After they graduate basic training, new soldiers have an opportunity to do what's called hometown recruiting. About 99% of all basic training grads are highly motivated to be part of the American defense system, and hometown recruiting is the Army's chance to let these soldiers flaunt their spirit in hopes it will catch others in its wake. Plus, it's a couple more weeks of active duty pay, and since I have nothing better to do, I figure why not? The recruiter with whom I work is a ranger. He is a sergeant first class, and he is authorized to wear 4 different combat patches. He has been shot twice, once in each leg, and quite literally fits every stereotype associated with the American soldier. His uniform is decorated with medals I didn't even know existed. His exterior, the way he carries himself, is hard and unforgiving. In fact, upon receiving his request for a drill sergeant's school, the Army decided he'd make a better recruiter because, my hand to God, he is too mean. Despite how the Army labels him, I find the Ranger to be one of the most interesting and insightful people I've ever met. I'll tell you what, Smithson, he says, as he drives us to a local high school, I would much rather be a drill sergeant. I hate this recruiting shit. This doesn't seem so bad, Sergeant, I say. He shakes his head. These kids at these high schools, he says, these kids for whom you gave up your future and put on that uniform, they don't even deserve it. They hardly respect you. They think you're some brainwashed grunt who has nothing better to do than join the Army. They're just kids, I say. They can't understand. You're just a kid, Smithson, he said. You don't understand what war is, do you? No, Sergeant. But you understand your freedom, yes. And that's what separates them from you, he says. I take their freedom for granted because it's always been there. Yeah, but going through basic is what made me understand. You new recruits, you need to stop telling yourself that, he said. You can't understand freedom until you give it up. And that's just what you did down at the map station, isn't it? I guess so. No, it's not a guessing game, he says. Before you ever set foot in basic training, you voluntarily gave up your freedom at the map station, yeah? And that is what is in high school, right? Yes. How many other kids in your class joined the military? A few. Exactly, he said. These kids we're going to try to recruit today. They think recruiters lie and cheat and trick kids into joining. You just watch. Most of them won't even look at us. And they think they've got it all figured out. They think they know what democracy is because they studied in history class. They think they know what a dictatorship means because they read the definition in a book. But they don't have a clue, Smithson, because if they did, they'd look you straight in the eye and thank you for what you're doing. Then, what is dictatorship, Sergeant, I say? You want to know what a dictatorship is? Yeah, why Are we trying to overthrow the government in Iraq just because we don't agree with it? You kids, he says, shaking his head. You think everything is about ideas and proving points. Iraq is about human suffering. War is about human suffering. He doesn't say anything for a few moments. He stares ahead, the highway passing us on all sides. Finally, he takes a breath and tells me a story. It was during the first Gulf War, he says, Desert Storm in 91. He was a kid like me, fresh out of Ranger School and living in Iraq. The public didn't even know about the mission he was running. To this day, he can't discuss details, but he can tell me that he witnessed some soldiers from the Iraqi army trying to take a boy away from his mother. The Iraqi army at the time was run by Saddam Hussein, the dictator of Iraq. It took place on the outskirts of a little village. They lived in a little mud hut, just the boy and his mother. They were sustenance farmers. The mother's face was covered with a black cloth, as was required by law. The boy's face was dirty, since he hadn't yet rinsed off in a nearby irrigation ditch. He was pulled by the arm away from his mother. The Iraqi army, this was how they did their recruiting. The soldiers threw the boy in the back of a pickup truck. The mother begged the soldier to let her go. He's only 12 years old, she screamed in Arabic. I need him on the farm. Howling in sorrow, the mother ran after her child. The boy sat in the pickup truck helpless, being held by his arm. One of the soldiers turned and shot the woman point blank in the face. Her body fell limp to the ground, her face dismembered. The son watched it all happen, watched his mother die in a pool of her own blood. The truck took off, and the boy began his service in the Iraqi army. We couldn't reveal our position, says the recruiter. We had to sit there in the irrigation ditch and watch it all happen, just like that little boy. I think of the students at the school to which we're going. I think of their designer jeans and backward hats and iPod earphones. I think of them sitting at cafeteria tables in a high school paid for by the government, by their parents' tax money. I think of how they complain about their mother's brown sack lunches, how they complain that they didn't get enough for Christmas. And then I think of that little boy, pulled by the arm away from the only person he had, his mother. We pull up to the school. Some kids who are probably sneaking cigarettes look away and put their hands in their pockets. With their backs facing us, they walk toward the main entrance. The recruiter shuts the car off and looks me straight in the eye. Let me ask you something, he says, and be honest, okay? Do you appreciate your freedom? Yes, of course. Do you appreciate your freedom so much that you're willing to fight for it? Yes. Okay, he says. Do you appreciate your freedom so much that you're willing to fight for the freedom of others? I think for a moment, really trying to answer his question honestly. Yeah, I think so, I say. Yes. That, Smithson, he says, is why you deserve to wear this uniform. And I'm telling you right now, if that's really the way you feel, then the army needs more soldiers like you in Iraq. Why ask? Those people deserve to be free, he says. He's looking me straight in the eye, but his eyes are not even in the vehicle.